already started. All right, everybody.
First off, what does anybody do digs? Kind of cool. You know, I still hang in here and be here and have plenty of room, and we got windows.
Yeah, some of you.
Maybe go home now once in a while. We'll be like, oh shit, it is dark out. Now you did, but you didn't know. Anyway, first off, all those you did make it in, thank you. This is so crucial. It's such a pivotal point. By show of hands or noise, whatever you want to do, who's excited about this massive change? It's the paperwork. I get a little daunting,
Okay.
but we're
Where
going
did
to
these
get
come
guys'
from?
attention
Those are mine.
through the whole thing
There you
because
go.
there's a lot of paperwork to get through. Lisa's going to kind of take that part of it, go through all the contractual shit with you, stuff that I don't like and most of us don't like, but it's actually crucial to know it, understand it. We're going to have to work with it. And on the flip side, then I'm just going to put in the paper and I'm going to attempt to answer any questions, role play with anybody on objections, talk tracks. How do you think you're going to be able to talk? You know, what do you think? What do you hear that with a buyer, with a seller, with them coming at you? And we can practice that. By the way, it's going to be a little clunky for a while. It'll be clunky for me. I'm not going to have all the answers. Nobody's going to have all the answers. But
The minute we have them, they're going to change it.
there you go. But you know, here's the fantastic thing. We're going to arm you with everything you need for business as usual. And the fantastic thing is there are so many agents who are not going to show their work. We're not going to grasp this. We're not going to get this kind of interaction and are going to exit stage left out of the industry, which I couldn't be more excited about that, which just means more opportunity for all of us. It truly does. This is not a bad thing. This is a great thing. And I want y'all to kind of have the mindset of this is a great thing. And by the way, nothing really has changed. So now we got more fucking paperwork. Sorry, that's just straight up how it is for me, as always. But it really has not changed much at all. By the way, commission.
We only saw one way out.
Commissions have always been negative. Sellers have never had to pay the buyers their commissions. Never. The best talk track I heard, and you know, I don't want to make her head too much bigger than it already is, but Gina Marie took a listing and she was like, literally, the dude's like, well, I hear that this is coming down the pipe. Why do I have to pay the buyer's commission? And she looks at him straight up and right from him goes, well, Rick, you never have had to. He's like, what? So it's been negotiable. And she goes, you want to sell your house? How many buyers do you think are going to come see your house with an agent if they're not getting paid? It's as simple as that. I was like, dang. And that went right off the cuff. So it really is as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way it's always been. It's just a different lens we're looking at it through now.
We just don't have a number to look at on the MLS anymore.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's it.
We're going to have to negotiate. We're going to have have different dialogues. It's not a big deal. Pain in the ass, but not a big deal. That pain in the ass is going to clear the way for a lot more opportunity for all of us. Simple as that. Anyway.
We will see agents that will exit the industry.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely will.
Exactly.
And our newer generation is going to come in and reap all the benefits, right? So I'm going to take a quick minute and thank my dear friend, Jessica. She's with Property ID. She gave us these beautiful little booklets. She's also an active realtor. So she is a working girl, 2 jobs. All right. I'm not going to talk about the touring agreement with Zillow. I'm going to let you do that. Yeah. Buyer broker. No, I'm going to change that. Who has listings right now? Current active listings. You will need to do the modification of listing. Right, if they're active listings, active on the MLS, you will need to do the modification of listing. The form is in your packet. We need more. No, if they're active listings.
Oh,
Who needs a packet? Who hasn't got one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Working on it. Working on it.
every time she comes out, right now, we'll get everybody a packet. Thank you.
That is so awesome.
These ladies were here, Trent, you saw the stack this morning, it was like this high, they were doing that last night, thought we had enough.
No,
So
I'm glad.
proud that all you showed up.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't have enough. Because that means you guys care about your business. Okay, I saw a lot of hands go up when I asked who's actually looked at the contracts. And I know a lot of you have already done it by a broker agreement. We have one agent in particular who's a pro. She's been doing them way before this even came out. Stop it. Sexy agent. So, why do we need a buyer broker agreement? Cover your commission, right? We've always needed one. Can't tell you how many times agents have got clients taken from them and they come crying. And I say, give me your buyer broker agreement. And I'm talking years and years and years. This has always been a document, guys. It's not new. Can't help you if you don't have one. They stole my client. Nope, you just couldn't keep your client. Okay. Buyer broker agreement is a must-have document. You must fill this out, which means you guys must read this document to fill it out correctly every time. You could be asked for this document to justify your commission. Wes and I have a difference of opinion on this, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing when we do this. I think we should put 3%. My reasoning being, if they're offering 3 and you only have 2.5 on here, you're only getting 2.5. You have 3 on here and they're offering 3, you're going to get 3, right? You can always go down, you can't go up. Whatever that buyer concession is, that's what you get. That's what you get. And it's going to relay all back to the buyer broker. So again, mandatory document every time you have clients, every buyer. We got to have one of these forms. I've already updated Sky Slope. Some of you who go in there already see it.
Which one?
The BRBC, buyer broker. Buyer representation. Yeah.
So if you do put 2%, sorry, 3%,
Mhm.
and then somebody can go to offering, do you then?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
And that's another form that's in your packet. It's a modification of terms to the buyer rep agreement. Good luck. Find a spot. So yes, you do have, and I think it was Karina, right? You had that question yesterday. So, you do have to modify if that's the case.
So what do you think about, let's say, as a buyer, obviously, say, well, I'm signing a contract saying 3%, if they don't, what if you put 3% and then you have an addendum tied to your buyer broker saying it would take 2.5, but in the event they offer 3, like some type of separate from you guys.
So that could be done in the modification of the buyer representation agreement. There's another section on there as well. So if you have 3 on here and the seller's willing to concede and give 2.5, you could get the 0.5% from your buyer. You absolutely can. That's a thing, guys. The buyers are paying your commission. You are truly working for your buyer now. You just explain it to them just like that. You don't know what the concession is going to be on any property. None of us are going to know. It's a big zero.
Right.
You can't go up. You can't even do an amendment to go up after you find out it's 3.
You put 3, they are in your word that you're not going to charge everything, so that's why I'm asking if you just put agreement for them up, so they have it right.
You absolutely can.
And so we did that on.
I would do it on the modification so that it's linked to this. You could do an addendum and you mark the other box because I don't think they have revised the addendums to include these documents.
the buyer broker protects you.
Mhm.
The addendum is where you can, or I'm sorry, the modification is where you can, that's where you can massage and make them, give them the warm fuzzy and not make them feel like, well, if I sign this and I'm just taking your work, I get where you're
Yeah.
coming from. It's gonna be neat.
You could, but guys, what's really happening, that's great for today. Think 2 years down the road, this is gonna be normal. The buyers are paying. Period. It's new for us today, and we're thinking of all these scenarios. But in a year, or even, I think it'll be less than a year, this is normal. This is the new norm.
Yeah.
And the lenders are gonna have to adapt as well, but they're keeping very quiet right now, aren't they? They're being very silent because they don't want to, but they're gonna have to.
The modification of, presentation also act like addendum as far as. addendum Too, because this could keep changing. I would think.
Yeah, and
Per property, per,
yeah,
okay. So once we modify it once, we can modify it again, is what I'm asking.
and again, and again,
Cool.
absolutely. Because these are. And this is gonna change too, guys. I guarantee you next year. Again, we're not even going to court until November. There's gonna be a lot more changes. So we just gotta be ready for it. And this is exactly why I say we're gonna have a lot of agents that just can't handle it and they're gonna go to the wayside. Uh-huh.
So. You've been working with the buyer for a couple months now, and we don't have a broker agreement. Should I get it now?
You absolutely have to have it now. This is not a WR requirement, even a DAR this is a NAR requirement. We have to have these. And then that will lead into how our Zillow Flex agents will have to work. That request later, but there is a separate form for Zillow Flex people for the initial showing. When they're ready to write, you gotta have one of these. Because the Zillow Flex are not sanctioned by our rules. So, okay, any questions on the buyer broker? And anyone that has a question, just call. It's really not, it seems ugly, but it's really not. You just have to read it. And no one likes to read. But you have to. Peanut gallery, touch it up. Okay.
I'm gonna talk track for that. When you talk to the buyer, go, hey. Which properties will be paying me? If you will be. And if they, obviously disagree, then that's the end of the relationship.
Well,
I would think.
so there are forms that are attached with this buyer broker. And again, this is why you guys must read these forms, okay? There's a buyer identification of preferences and priorities form. The BCA, the broker compensation advisory you guys have seen for the last 8 months, I think. Buyer financial and personal information form. These are all forms that are attached to the buyer broker. It's really. Notice a broker involved properties. And buyer material issues for a specific property. Okay, so. Your buyer broker is initially covering anything you show them. Oh, and I'm gonna recommend that you put Contra Costa County. Or Alameda County, or all of those counties, right? Instead of specific addresses or cities. Because if you're showing in Brentwood, the odds are really good that they might decide they like something better in Oakley or Discovery Bay or Antioch. If you're limiting it to cities, you're gonna limit yourself and you're gonna make more paperwork for yourself. Right? So just go county.
Lisa, isn't there a form that lists the now? I don't see that here. Looks like this is different.
It's probably in the pile attached to the purchase agreement, probably. Because it reference, a lot of these forms double reference in each document.
This one looks more broad than the other. The specific addresses was kind of a pain, especially in Minnesota when they're
Right now, it's counties and cities, but let's go with counties, okay, instead of cities. Because buyers are liars and sellers are worse, and even if they say they want Brentwood, they're gonna find something in Oakley that they just gotta have. So my advice, go with the counties. Did I answer your question? Absolutely, everybody is. Well, it could, yeah, sure. So it would have to go if it's requested for your compensation if the seller's paying for it. Not all of the other stuff, no, but all of the other stuff is referenced in this form. So could they call you and say, hey, I want to see the buyer's personal information? You could say no, yeah. And they could say no, right? I mean, it's a back and forth, but that's exactly why I think a lot of this is going to change when it gets down to the nitty gritty. And again, remember, November, I think it's 25th is the hearing, and that's the first one. Doesn't mean anything's going to be resolved. So if that even happens, absolutely. God, that was. But unfortunately, no. Okay, so you guys all understand there's a separate modification of terms for specifically for the buyer rep agreement. Okay, specifically for this document. And then all of those that have current active listings must prepare the modification of listing for those documents, for that transaction. Yes, no, only if it applies. So again, that's why you must read these documents because some will apply and some won't. Adam. Oh, for Suzanne. It could be, yes. It could be one or the other. Are you raising your hand? You're middle fingering me.
That's good.
Yes.
I love you. I'm my wife, guys are nuts.
I know.
Love you, honey.
What?
So I'm assuming that anything currently in escrow and under contract on the 17th, nothing needs to be changed.
Correct. If you're in escrow, you're good. If you're active listing, you must do a modification. Yes. Please.
They said, okay, I'm paying you 1%. So we know we're getting money from sellers. And the seller sees that we're getting 1%. How does that keep him from not?
He absolutely could reduce by that 1%. I get it.
They agree.
I wish I created these forms. I really do. I really wish I did because it wouldn't be this hard. But again, guys, these are going to change again. So we can only go with what they're giving us today. And for today's example, it is wrong. And don't give them shit. Well, here's why we're in this shit pickle, as my lovely Erin would say. For non-disclosure. That's why we're right, because the consumer doesn't know what we're paying and why we're getting paid what we're getting paid, which is why they say now we have to provide these documents so that the whole world knows everything. That's why we're having this conversation today. So non-disclosure.
Sellers are 2.5%. Is that number fire off the hook?
So hold that thought. The seller is not paying anything.
Right.
We're hoping that the seller, we're negotiating a concession to the buyer. The verbiage is very important moving forward.
Yes,
That
guys.
can get us in trouble.
It's not, we are not being compensated by the seller any way, shape, or form.
So it goes back to what Lisa was saying as far as what you put on that buyer broker, right? If you put 2.5% and the seller gives the buyer a concession of 3%, buyer is only required to
Obligated
give you
2.5.
2.5. Because I gotta tell you, and we'll get into this in my part of it. But if you don't think I'm gonna be going to sellers and saying, you're gonna want to be offering 3 or 3.5, do you know how much of a mess this is creating and how many people are gonna be avoiding and how hard it's going to be to drive buyers to your house now? Fear factor.
It's the
Scare
conversation.
the shit out of them and
Yeah.
get them to pony up.
Absolutely. And it's how strong you can be with your seller. Come on. No, Eddie.
Now, Eddie, get your butt in.
I'm already.
There's a chair right there by Gina Marie. Actually, it's a big cushy one too.
Suze, do we have another packet?
Yeah.
Lesson.
Okay, so the seller concession, you're gonna same thing as a seller credit. And so
That's again, totally negotiable. So when you write your agreement, that's why you have to make a call to the listing agent. Are there concessions, not commissions? You cannot say that word anymore. Are there buyer concessions, not what am I getting? If it's 2%, that's all you got to work with. And then the buyer and seller negotiate any credits when you're in the process and you've had inspections and blah, blah, blah. That's different. The seller can say, I'm only giving 3% concessions. That's all I'm giving.
So concession.
Not necessarily. Yes.
The concession, what I read, I attended classes, they said concession includes everything, the commission, the credit, everything.
But is that not negotiable? So that's my answer. It's negotiable. No.
Side, they're pled that, like she said, they have their heads in the sand right now. They're not talking.
Yeah.
We believe it's gonna be 6% from what I'm hearing. To allow for both.
Right.
6 at this point is what I'm understanding.
Mhm. That depends on what the
Well-
buyer and seller negotiate. The seller will have a concession theoretically of X amount or percent, or I mean, it could be a flat fee. And then you get into contract. And now the buyer and seller are negotiating closing cost credits, maybe repairs, any of that. I can't give you an answer because we're not in that contract.
Meaning like if they are offering.
That's up to the seller.
They're not separate.
It's just, you know. Okay, but it's gonna be.
Correct. Yeah.
To the buyer. Yep.
If there is, absolutely.
If there is. Uh-huh.
And the seller agrees to pay the obligation to the buyer broker agreement.
So a
So
seller,
everything's separate on that.
so they're separate on the RPA. So when you write your offer, you already know that there's a concession coming from the seller for X amount because why? You called and asked. The seller and your buyer needs 10,000 in closing costs, you put that on there. Then that is the negotiation, guys, between the buyer and the seller. If that concession goes up or down or
Wherever it goes.
wherever it goes. And again, it's not, our commission is not guaranteed in that concession if the buyer needs some of that money. The buyer is paying you from that concession.
Here's the what if. Seller's offering a 2.5% concession to the buyer. They didn't do inspections up front, which everybody, when you take a listing, better be doing those inspections up front.
Especially now.
Protecting yourself. and the other agent and the integrity of what we do.
Mhm.
And the buyer does, your buyer does inspections and finds out, well, crap, there's $10,000 for the section 1 work. And oh, by the way, that must be cleared before we can close because it's FHA. Seller can say, it's coming out, or we're negotiating the concession. That's why the buyer broker agreement becomes important, because now the seller is going to take some of that money, some of that concession, make the repairs, that concession swing down, that's supposed to go to you. So now, do you accept that concession, or do you go after your buyer?
That's where your buyer
Or the
comes in.
difference. This is, it's not, you guys, it sounds scary, it's really not. It's just honing your skills and learning how to be excellent salespeople and negotiators, and very, very clear communication.
And why it's gonna be more important to have those inspections done in time of listing. You're gonna have to do it, guys, because we, as listing agent and even as buying agent, we need to know what our client's getting into. It's important for the seller in the beginning anyway, right?
Right.
It's even more important now. And you explain that to your seller. It's another reason why. Leslie's just smiling back there. Mhm.
And the buyer needs this amount to. this amount on the buyer.
No pedicures. Well, it is. Your buyer has guaranteed to pay you. Yep.
Therein lies the power in freaking reading these documents.
Thank you, Sue. And that's where the BIPP, the buyer's information. Right, yeah. Again, guys, that's why it's so important to read these. I can't, there is no way on God's green earth that either Wes or I can go through this with you line by line. At all in 2 hours. You guys have to invest in your business and read the forms, Joel. And they lied. This is complete transparency, guys.
RPA, so the concession is there on the front page, but there is on the third page of the RPA, it says other funds. If the seller has not done their inspection, you don't know what section 1 is gonna be.
Correct.
You can write here, seller to complete section 1 on your other funds, so it doesn't affect the concessions.
Well, but again, we're stuck in that we don't put inspections or repairs on an RPA. Right?
Right. You can put it on the
Addendum A.
Keep the questions that are being asked for the few that are.
This is why I don't like this. I can't repeat the questions. I'm sorry.
I know.
You know what we can do? No, I can take, when somebody raises their hand, call them, I'll take this to them.
Yes.
So, good job.
We're so smart in our old age.
So I bring you the microphones, everybody on Zoom, which is.
Since I require broker.
Mhm.
And then isn't that the best way to do it, so then their credits are, we're not affecting their credit?
Yes, but what we're trying to get you guys to understand, which is no different than it is now. If inspections aren't done and parties don't know what they're dealing with credit wise or repair wise, we're back in the same boat, right? So it doesn't matter what you check or put in here, if there's a lot of repairs that need to be done and there's no money to give for a credit, what are we gonna do? But that's always been that way.
Everything has always been negotiable.
Yep.
And the reality is, we've just got to get stronger about what we're doing, who we're working with, and our dialogue. There's-
Value and credits, and I mean, that's even if they say no, but they're not offering concessions on the MLS, I mean, I feel like you just try to submit it.
That's exactly what we have to do, because they're not offering concessions on the MLS. You will not see anything on the MLS.
I thought they were putting.
Some MLSs are, some aren't. And I still don't even know who's doing what. And concessions are to the buyer, right?
We're gonna have many more little meetings like this, maybe not 2 hours, just to answer questions as we go along. We might Put this into a weekly or every thing for the first month or two. It's gonna be a little clunky.
And guys, you're gonna have to just call and ask or come in. I recommend, please come in. Come into our beautiful office.
You're really. A lot more of them. Extra bedrooms, always over the nice. So,
And all of you help each other, right? Just like what we're doing right now. You guys help each other. So does everybody want food? Because we have food getting cold.
Great.
Grab some food, come back in. Princess, I made you salsa. Get in this. Absolutely.
Really? Hey, by the way, I wanna go over the zip codes that I put in. I put in some zip codes for you. And we're gonna need this, and actually, having Coach Mama. I think we'll finish the last couple of days is project, that was one of them. I got it done. It's all to the next year. Also guarantee you with it, but we need to make sure we get. But I'm gonna go over with. I think I did two in Davis. The like the German town center machine. And poker. No, that's under. I was trying to. Problem. Okay.
We have still got stations that we have for. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
One person. That's what I'm saying. You know, with Jeff, they got a fix it. What's been perfect, right? They don't even fix it.
I just read it close, I didn't hear that it's in you, but. Big job, which is, and I'm on Baskin Robbins.
That all sounds good.
And then I'll be perfect, and then I'll get it out of my system. So, yeah. Yeah. Right. What street was yours on?
I'm sorry, it's getting. I'll talk to you later. Can you hear me now? Gina Marie, can you hear me? Oh, it's flashing red. It's not, it's my skill. Gina Marie?
We were downtown, all the like whatever.
Hey, you can't hear us, can you?
Thank you. It's so simple. Go back and get started. Okay. And we're gonna go to the RPA. So I think we ended on the RPA. What's the? No, go ahead. We can do it now. Mhm.
Exclusive or non-exclusive for a longer period of time. If you show a property and write it, even if you do the free property.
Mhm.
is it- that property, they buy it from that.
Theoretically, yes. That's your recurring cause, right? However, there's always a but, right? There's always a but. Some of us have bigger butts than others. They can cancel, the buyer can cancel this agreement. It depends if you're exclusive or non-exclusive. We want to be exclusive. Uh-huh. 30 days. That's continuation period if you extend it. Yes, and that's one of the forms that you can add in there. Yeah. Notice NBIP, notice the broker involved properties. That's the form you need to designate specific properties.
Buyer can cancel the buyer broker agreement at any time. It's
30 days.
after 30 days or within.
They have to give you notice of 30 days to cancel your agreement.
To avoid, this might be more on the Zillow side, but to avoid, like I've had it hundreds of times. You show a property, oh, my agent was busy.
So here's the thing, Wes is gonna go over the Zillow side, because what we're talking about is not Zillow related for your initial showings. There's a different Zillow form. But once they become your client, because at first they're not, right? They're not anybody's client at first. But once they agree to be your client, you get the buyer broker side. Before that, Zillow, and this is also in your packet, has their own touring form.
What we do is the client, as multiple agents, as multiple.
they're stating that they do not have multiple agreements. You're doing an exclusive with them. And
That's not good, like.
right,
But
and
I go to Joe Blow, you know.
but the consumer has a lot of leeway. Our government treats them like they're idiots, and they therefore act like idiots, right? So we have to make it very clear. We don't just send this here, sign this. You need to read this with them. You need to tell them what their obligations are. We're gonna go to Joel first.
Gotta be ready.
Yes, that's why I suggest you do counties, not cities.
This is California then at that point, or?
Yeah.
You absolutely could.
Just say all California.
Right. But you absolutely, every county in the state of California. That's my agreement. Uh-huh. For those specific properties. For those specific. Yes, but I would absolutely recommend you do the buyer broker. Don't limit yourselves. Mr. Carter, do you have anything you'd like to add? Yes, please.
I've read, I mean, it's only been 2 minutes since I've read. Everyone in insurance has a other term. So, and I right, said other terms, see addendums, yeah. So why don't you sit out how I want? Tell us we pay, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all this connected to this addendum.
Absolutely. Just don't use the word commission. And don't phrase it like seller's paying you a commission, because seller is never gonna pay you a commission again. Your buyer's paying you. Compensation, concession, concession. I would stick with concession because that's the word that they're throwing out. But it's all going to the buyer. Nothing is coming to you. It's coming to the buyer and then to you, right? Sleight of hand. It is. It truly is. Which is exactly why I think that these forms are gonna change again, because it is money laundering. Title.
It's entitled. It's still all passes through title. Like, if they have to, so even, it's all part of the negotiation of the contract. These buyer brokers are part of the contract, they will be part of the file. In essence, if your buyer, if you can't get any concessions, if your buyer is paying you 2.5%, they're gonna have to bring it into escrow.
Yes,
Just like-
but we will still get paid from escrow. That part isn't gonna change. Can I give my routing number to the buyer? Can you?
I just want to thank you again for through this. This is for much done.
Absolutely, and we need to have these conversations, even when it's just a couple of us, right? If you have a question, just ask, because that's how we work it out. Gina Marie?
Open houses.
Oh, open it, those forms are in here too. So there's 2 forms for open houses.
Hey, this is important. Listen up. You gotta tell you, so you get into it too. It's a big package, guys.
Yeah, they're separately I stapled them separately. There's only 3 in that staple or that flip. Property showing, that should be your first clue. And representation agreements.
You don't have the property showing?
It's 3 pages. That's a separate clip, but it could have got attached to something else. So there's. I'm sorry, my apologies. It's attached to the residential listing agreement. Was it separate? OHNA.
I'm gonna make some copies. 1, 2, 3.
Go to your listing agreement packet. Listing agreement packet, and it's the 3rd from the end. They got it. Yep. That's what we were talking about. OHNA. So, everybody got it? Yep. Open house visitor non-agency. So this is when you're holding an open house and you have Joe Blow from the other street walking in. They're supposed to sign this. And this is where Wes and I agree we're gonna go gray.
Okay, so you're holding an open house and you obviously expose the house, get people through it. Somebody comes up and says, so when somebody comes in, say, okay, before I can talk to the house, this one we need you to sign it, for compliance reasons. And they say, no, I'm good, just want to see the house. You're gonna have to use discretion whether you want to have a fight on your hands at that time or you. In other words, you're not the police.
Right.
We're not
don't
the
wanna be-
police, we're not the cover police, we're not the dog police. It's good discretion. You're not going to force your hand on that one, meaning like.
I'm gonna put it this way. For all of you that do open houses, you should be having people sign in anyway,
100%.
right? So this is no different. This is just them giving us another form. What we're telling you is you should be getting that information, but we all know we don't always. We get Mickey Mouse at yahoo.com, right? We're not gonna be sticklers on that. And I don't want you telling someone they can't come through the open house because they don't send the form. That's only gonna cause issues.
What are we supposed to do with it?
If you have it, yes, it's going to be a required form in, if I think it already is actually, but that's okay. If you have it, put it in. If not, we'll release it at the end. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Yes, they absolutely can. Absolutely, and I'm gonna knock on wood, if DRE audits our files and this isn't in there, could we get in trouble? Absolutely. But what's the bigger evil, right? You guys trying to enforce this? You can't even do it now.
Here's the thing, if I know Mia does a lot of open houses and we're auditing her file and there's nothing in there, me and I are gonna be having a little bit of a chat, because that just means she's not even trying. It's our obligation, it's the rules, like, and we want you doing it. But what I certainly don't want is somebody coming in and be, my size. Anyway, do you want to say, yeah, I'm sorry, what? And now you're forced to the confrontation.
No, we don't want that.
And already, we lost that client.
Exactly, yes.
And by the way, also, you can be caught on adversarial, be like, I'm sorry, this is our rule.
You have to use your discretion, because what are you doing right now? Are you just letting people walk in free willing?
I don't want you to say, you don't have to sign this form.
Everyone did.
Same as you showing a house to your buyer, with the buyer agreement that you're gonna tour the house with them, right? So it's the same thing as an open house.
Right, but and you have the neighbor coming in, we don't want you having a confrontation.
Here's the thing. Question on this one, because if somebody doesn't want you, we're not the police, you can't make it. That's a
And mark my words, I think this is one of the forms that will end up going away. Because it really doesn't serve much of a purpose.
By the way, your safety and protection. If somebody doesn't want to sign it, great. Take yourself at home. Step outside of the house.
Which you should be doing anyway, when you get that gut feeling. Don't think about your commission, think about your gut. If you're ever feeling uncomfortable, you need to leave.
We go to church, please.
Everybody that comes in the house to sign this form. If they don't sign, you don't get in.
And that's what we should be saying anyway about them signing our sign-ins. But a lot of people don't do that. Melissa,
It's not on.
Ladies.
this form is in your zip forms. It doesn't need to be uploaded by anybody. You already have access to it. Sure. I'm gonna ask that you send Patrick an email and ask him to upload it. It will be in Glide, yes.
All in class. And great dialogue.
We're talking about the compliance
Uh-huh.
thing. So this is in my file. Does there have to be a name on every one of them that I hold?
It should, yes. Yeah. But here's, how is DRE, here's our thought process. How is DRE gonna really know when you had an open house to do that? There's so much legwork that they would have to do.
I think it's one of those silly, stupid ones, that's why we're saying. it, right? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It is.
there you go. Like, it's not- you're not the police.
Right. So I don't want to spend any more time on that because it's no different than what we're already doing. It's just, this is a form, you're gonna see it in your sky flow period.
Good question on the open. Have you, open house, I asked, some nervous about buying. So then now the question becomes, do you have any, a second question becomes, do you have a broker?
Absolutely.
You have a check.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, but that now when they say no, and what I'm asking is just kind of for everybody is, well, now it opens the floodgate, like, oh, cool, you don't have that sign, well, why not? Well, then that conversation is gonna be valuable.
Invaluable.
I mean, that's how you're really gonna land them, it's just,
You're always looking for things.
great, so
Yes.
it's just learning them is gonna be the hard part, unless you're Sue that already has.
That's exactly why we're doing this, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that, I guess here's another question.
Okay.
All right, I'm done.
If you're thinking it's someone else's, so please say it.
Please don't make it.
Yeah.
Okay, or about it.
Side listing agreement, my seller is not giving any concession.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, what? He's gonna get a listing agreement.
I'm just throwing out,
Our dialogue, yeah,
That's coming.
I'm just throwing out situations.
Just hold that.
that's right, you work for Keller Williams. Just throwing out scenarios, like we said, there's gonna be, I'm sorry.
We're doing that. You did not hear that.
Then the buyer wants to work with me.
Okay.
They can't afford.
They can't afford to pay.
You're working for free.
At that point, I just say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't.
Absolutely.
And you guys are gonna back us up on.
No, we're not even gonna let you take it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just throwing that to them. I wouldn't take that anyways.
That's to discover because in the RTA, or excuse me, LRA, there is a place on there where it talks about you're looking for this, they're making a concession for this much. If you happen to be the procuring cause, you're agreeing, they'll agree to this much. It is very drawn out, you guys. And by the way, that was a great question and a great thing. And by a raise of hands, who in here would take a listing without, with the seller refusing to give a concession? I bet that's good. Yeah, no, you were always gonna say no. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
WR way.
Now, with these concessions, can there be, I know it's always like the 3% or 2.5%. Can there be just a solid number, like
Yes.
20 grand?
Yes.
And
Flat, yeah.
flat range, I guess it would be better.
And we are discussing that as a leadership group and as ACE culture, what our standard is going to be working here. Is we have to protect the integrity of all of you and the industry. Period.
Mhm.
You guys
I'm gonna take a
agree?
bite.
Is this gonna be easy? No.
Is it gonna be fun? Oh, yeah.
You know, if you start cowering now and backing down now, you're literally tearing apart the fabric of what we do and our future.
Mhm.
Like literally, you guys. But hey, it's, I don't know. Just so- I want to make a coverage statement right now. I will never run for any government office. Ever. That's politically uncorrect.
Yes, I would still do that job.
Anthony has a question.
All right, are we ready to switch
Yeah,
over?
let's get going on this.
Listing agreement? Since we just talked about that. In your pile,
Yes, sometimes. Protecting it.
residential listing agreement. Not to exceed 24 months unless they are a corporation, LLC, or partnership. I have never seen anybody do a listing agreement for longer than a year. But just putting it out there. Did everybody get the packet? Everybody's got the packet? 2C1, compensation to seller's broker, only a seller's side of transaction. Can you see that?
This is important. Just so you know.
It's right below it. You didn't read. It's a percentage or a flat fee. Right?
Can they do both?
Sure.
A percentage for the listing agent, a flat fee for the buyer.
You just can't say that it's for buyers.
Yeah, for, as a concession for the buyer. So, we're gonna reiterate this over and over and over. Like again, these words are very crucial moving forward and how you use them.
Okay, and then 4C2, additional compensation to seller's broker if buyer is unrepresented. That's the dual agent. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of words.
But it's,
It's actually C2. 4C is the explanation. So there's that. The C3, continuation of right to compensation for broker identified prospective buyers. It's most of this is in our contract right now. They just put it in the grid format like they did for the purchase agreement when that switched over 2 years ago. So this isn't new, it's just gridded out. My advice to all of you, I always put 60 days there. So if this cancels or expires, you have 60 days You have to provide them with a list of the buyers that have come through. But hopefully you've done your job and you've had buyers go through, right? Just takes a second to put 60 days in there and make a list. Your buyers that came through, if you know, you wouldn't. But then you're not for current cost for that. These are your buyers, your people that you've had come through. People from open houses. People from open houses. No, it can't be, because you don't know the buyers of the agents that came through. If you asked, how many have asked? What's your buyer's name? If you did, you could, absolutely.
What's your house? Listing, you're gonna cancel. But that person ends up buying the house. I show your house and my buyer is still under buying the house. While you were with it. I'm asking, would you still get paid?
Somebody else picked up the listing
Oh,
and her buyer who saw it like.
that's what the 60 days.
Correct.
Same buyer.
Because this has been in the contract for 20 years. The contract, always.
So this is where we can use that signing sheet.
No, great. I meant our time with that.
If you look at C4, seller obligation to pay previous brokers, if so, that kind of pertains to the one above it, if there was another brokerage. Again, this is not new.
And
In
it's,
fact, I'm gonna stop talking about this stuff
we need to,
because
because
it's gonna go
done.
forever.
And most of us have never used it and still never will. And if you're pissed off a seller, do you really think they're gonna sign that anyway? And do you really wanna have that fight? Lick your wounds,
Really
move on to
don't.
the next one, because if you're willing to have that fight, you're missing a lot of other good stuff.
Okay,
Just
so again, guys, this is not new stuff. It's just written out. So now you're gonna know what it means. Okay. E1, property will be marketed in the following MLS. And then CCAR form MLSA, that's multiple listing service agreement. It's a new form. It's right after the listing agreement. It's in that packet. Guys, this form is taking the place of Selma. Okay? This comes already with the listing agreement when you pull it in to your forms. But if you look down here, it's got the sections for when you can market it, clear cooperation. So we're not gonna need to sell. It's exactly the same thing we've been doing. I just want to point out to you guys, this is a new form. And it's covering the sell. Okay, yes,
Hang on.
yes, it does. This form is attached to the RLA, the listing agreement, when you have your seller sign. It's already there. It's not a new form you have to pull in. It's already gonna be there. But yes, again, back to the reading. Number 5, seller concessions.
Is this gonna be yes or no in the MLS?
I don't know.
Okay.
It will not have an amount. Every MLS is gonna be different. And it's really gonna be a phone call that you're gonna have to make.
But if you prefer a faster response, please text me.
All right. Any questions on the listing agreement, guys? Any questions? There's side questions, so you must have a question. No? Okay. We already did the property showing, purchase agreement. Oh, we told Patrick we would take videos and stuff.
Yeah. No, see this one, but guys can do us.
All right, so on the purchase agreement. I'm gonna take you to page 2. G3. Again, this is not new. It's been there for 2 years now, but we've never had to use it. Seller agrees to pay the obligation of buyer to compensate buyer's broker under a separate agreement, form SPBB. So it's another form you'll have to pull in when you're asking the seller. I know.
Oh, no, good.
It's a lot. So the last page of the purchase agreement is the SPBB form. When you're asking the seller to pay the buyer's obligation. Do you understand those words? The buyer's obligation.
Now, they agree to that 3% if that's what is agreed upon? Or they set a limit on that?
It's negotiable. There's no limit settings allowed in. But as a listing agent, we're gonna have a conversation and say, Mr. Seller, how much concession will you be offering to buyer's agent? And I think it's just easier to do it in the percentage. But you still have some sellers who want a flat fee. But that's where having a conversation with the listing agent is gonna come into play, so you know what that looks like. Well, a flat fee is a flat fee.
For something like $400,000 or $4 million, you're not gonna have a 5 out of 6 different fees.
Well, they might. That's why we have to ask.
Us as the agent should be saying that.
Yes.
Not gonna cut the monster.
That's not gonna cut it.
Over here.
Yes, absolutely.
Would it be helpful if we as a leadership are a couple of mock situations for each one of these contracts, send it out to all y'all, so you can do a dry run through, send it back to us. Would you do it if we do that? Because this is gonna take some of our time.
And I am not doing it if you guys aren't buying it.
I can throw out 103 scenarios for you.
Okay, you're in the video, don't worry.
Shame on you. But by the way, here's our thing. We're doing everything we can to help you, give you all the tools. If you decide not to use the tools in 2 months, you come to us.
Oh.
Seriously, guys, more than most or any other company. I want you to help you. You're comfortable with this. So you all can dominate this freaking space.
And we really, yeah, really want to encourage everyone, questions, ask them. Thumbelina. If you check the box, it'll auto-populate. Just like all the other times when you check the box. But you have to check the box. I know, so let's.
Scenario night would be good.
Yeah.
Ooh. We're gonna be having small classes and some role playing stuff. Mixing this up. We're going to go above and beyond for all of you. At different times and things and especially in the languages. Because we're feeding you on what the fire goes right now. And some of the stuff is not gonna stick until you're like doing it and going. I remember going through this, but where does this mean? How do I navigate this? And then once you get stressed a little bit, you can come in and you're
Number one is subject to terms of the seller needs to pay by its broker blank percent of the purchase price. Isn't that just check that? The percent be done with this?
You're already gonna know what that concession amount is, because you have to make a phone call. You're gonna know if they're, If your buyer broker agreement says 3%, absolutely you can. But the whole point of writing clean offers is what? No counter, right? So this is where we're in some little sticky. Oh, God. But yes, Jeff, absolutely. And as long as your buyer broker has that same number on it, you can ask. Yeah, no problem.
Is it a problem? If somebody, checks the SPVB
Mhm.
and sends it in your, and your seller wants to pay less than that, is there any problem? Counters of by the commission?
You have to have them on your counters.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a problem.
Don't talk-
No, I mean, repairs and inspections, we don't talk about, right? But that's always been the case.
What do you,
Yes, but we can't call it a commission because it's a buyer concession. It's not our commission. It's a buyer concession. Mhm.
So keep the questions coming there for that, now we're gonna get into some dialogue.
Any other questions?
Just want to confirm one thing.
Yes.
Okay, the seller agrees to pay 2.5 concessions.
Yeah.
We're not done their concessions yet. We find it 10,000, we can request another 10,000. This is like the normal, yes.
It's exactly, it's normal.
The sellers are gonna say, no, 2.5 was my limit concessions. You do what the-
Right.
But at that point, I have to make a decision, okay, I can give my buyer 5,000, meet them halfway for the repairs, and take 5,000 less on my concession.
By the way, you know that we are always your scapegoat. We are always the bad cop. You know what I mean by that?
Good on you.
If you're not comfortable, put it on us. Then, hey, you know what? Hey, I need to check with my broker.
Yeah.
Here's our company policies, when you're in those negotiations or whatever you need them to be. And we are the scapegoat.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid. That's what we're here.
Just for the sake of saying. It's like the West, under the bus 30 times. Stuff like that. I don't know how to deal with it. Into the floor.
And we'll have Jeff will come in and go, Lisa, I gotta tell you this in case you get a phone call. He always says that. I gotta tell you this in case you get a phone call. I haven't gotten a phone call.
Use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
All the time.
I do have my mentor too.
In case you get a phone call.
It's
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. People are always gonna push. They're gonna try and rally. It's really simple. You wanna get really good with your answers and your comebacks. Cause as soon as you go, well, guess what? They now know they got you, they know they won.
Lived in the water.
Yep, as soon as you hesitate for a second on anything tough they're coming at you with, that is blood in the water. Period. So,
Okay, so any other questions?
questions on the contract?
Contracts. And then Wes is gonna get into some dialogue.
Yeah, I thought I've got, by the way, how many of you are using AI? That's what I mean. Raise them higher if you're using AI. Yeah, that's good.
That's very.
I'm just starting. I could send you this, but I literally went on AI and said, I'm going to read it.
Get your glasses, old man.
I know, right? Well, she had printed out so small. I like big writing. No, I didn't print out what I wrote, but anyway, it was basically I said, hey, what are the objections that us as realtors are going to be facing with buyers and sellers? And what are good objection handlers? It printed out 5 pages. Now I haven't read it yet because you know what, I will be going through it. That's part of what we should be doing. I call that honing my skill and my craft. I can't know enough. I don't know enough. I don't know it all. You know, so what's that? AI does not. It's funny, we've put it to the test, like, we have several different AIs and we also have, what is it, Google and Siri, and sometimes we'll ask each one of them, and we'll get different answers. We saw something on AI that was so convincing, said, oh my gosh, Wes, you gotta see this. She makes me watch this thing. It's like, okay, there's 3 minutes of my life I'm not getting back. I don't believe it. Sounds great. It was about the rebirth of eagles, not eagles rebirth. Well, whatever it was. But so I went into my research and sure enough, no, it's an urban myth. It's a myth. You have to, you guys, these days, more now than ever, do your fact checking on everything. Like, I don't believe anything anymore. Nothing. I fact check everything, even AI against other places. Anyway, so where do you guys want to start? You want to start with buyers or sellers? Buyers. Okay. So you see the buyer broker agreement. Who's gonna kind of in knots a little bit, thinking, yeah, you gotta have, because I've never done buyer brokers before, me crazy too. By the way, I'm one of those people. Don't believe in them. These are very different. And that's what's good. I think that's great for all of you. Is there something in the middle? There's something that works for everybody. Although now there is no middle. You have to have a buyer broker. So this is going to be new for me, and makes my stomach kind of go, whoop. I've got to have these conversations that I never had to have before. I was feeling a little queasy about having those conversations. Seriously. What's that? I disagree. I actually disagree. But that we can agree to disagree. But that's because I'm super comfortable with sellers. Sellers is my jam. Like, I got them. Buyers, not so much. But
Yeah, on the back side, I did have a queasy feeling. I actually talked to Lisa before this, because it was the first time I came across the 0% commission, and the house was 1.5. So I had to tell this buyer that, oh, by the way, I'm going to need 45 grand out of you. And it was a tough conversation, but they were like, okay. I mean, I may have got lucky if they probably had the money, but I'll tell you what, I had butterflies like no other. So it's going to happen, even if you didn't raise your hand. I know you will. It's going to happen. Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were good. Yeah. Let's get a loan for your. Can anybody tell me what the massive silver lining in this buyer broker agreement, having to have these, is? Yeah. Yeah. You know, we get paid to sell houses, we get paid to sell it. That's right. So now you will absolutely have to have a buyer consult. Even if it's on phone, Zoom, whatever it is, you send some documentation, you look it over, them, can have a conversation about it. Great. Do you understand it? Fantastic. Doctor signing it to you right now. Bang. Done. It can be that simple. Sure, what I always do with my contracts, I always hit the key points. Just so you know, we're gonna be looking at houses. Most sellers will be offering a concession that will cover my commissions. And it's part of my job to try to negotiate that. But if I can't, and you want the house, no, you're okay paying me, right? Okay, we understand that. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it.
The more confident you are, the less you have to explain.
Did it?
If this is
Oh,
gonna
world.
pay out that 8%.
Yeah.
Somebody can get an agent that says, okay, you don't have to pay, and then they're gonna see that they're not getting any offers, or the ones they are getting are asking for that concession. So,
Yes.
they're gonna pay them probably not gonna pay anyway, in order to close the deal.
It's again, it's going to be clunky for a while. Because you're gonna have a lot of weak ass agents going out there and just caving. It's gonna take a while for them to tell that. And you're gonna run into, by the way, you're gonna run into a lot of pissed off buyers. Now, Rita, can I use you for example for a minute?
Sure.
Well, way back, Rita was a home buyer at one point in time. She was frustrated with her agent because they were not working for her. They were not doing their diligence. Okay. How long were you looking for? 6 months. How long did it take, once we met, how long did it take to get in contact? You're gonna have to just show your value. This is what's gonna happen more and more. People are not gonna be able to do the things. And that's where you're going to excel. Massively. You better be able to. You're gonna win. You're gonna be running into people who are, and by the way, I'm in a buyer broker agreement. I'm sorry. Cool play. What'd you say? You're the agent. Yeah, I'm starting to see, we're in open house. Yep, I'm in a buyer broker.
So you're client?
You run into me, I'm a potential buyer,
Okay.
and we're dialoguing, and you ask me, you're trying to figure out, like, we're vibing, and you're thinking,
So it's happening. Well done.
yeah.
Did you sign?
As a matter of fact, I did. I'm the one that said, "Go vote."
So, are you working? So who's your agent? That's right.
See, you're really good. You said, "See, this is actually something that she's perfected." Yes, who their agent is. Not if they have an agent, because in the past, everybody, when they walk through the open house.
Yeah.
Agent response, path of least resistance, people do not like take it. You know, so who's your agent? Or it's not. That's right, you can pay. I'm telling you. Anyone ever shadow somebody, she's the one to shadow too. New agent. You want the shadows, those 7 deals and. When you ask if they, oh, that's so. I think it's missing the ring.
So, I'm assuming you have a buyer broker.
What's that?
It's a contract between your agent and you that says that you are that they are representing you for the purchase of.
That's something they make.
Well, right now, because the NAR ruling, have to sign, I'm gonna need you to sign this. This is just going to state for our open house. You can just sign this, and it says right on here. It states that, I don't represent you. And the communication is confidential. You can read over this, and basically, this is something that we're gonna have to do.
That's great. That's perfect. Now let's spin this around. Now, yeah, I've been in the market for 6 months, and my agent's just unresponsive. Never shows me houses I want to see. I feel like she shows me houses that she wants to look at.
I would say. I'm a buyer broker agreement.
You.
How long is the contract? You said it's been 6 months.
I signed it for a year, so I'm stuck with her for another 6. I'm stuck with her for another 6 months.
Happy with them? Would be happy to serve you. You have to file cancellation with them, and then I would love to sign an agreement with you.
No, you know what? First off, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm gonna spin that a little differently to take a higher road. Still would have a dialogue with them and say, it's a contract. Every contract can be canceled. So, you know what? I never want to step on any other agent's toes. However, if you truly feel like they're not working for you, you may want to have a talk with them, and you may want to cancel it. And by the way, at any point in time you cancel that, I would love to serve you. Here's my card, and drop it at that. Don't go much further than that.
Yes. Yes, yes.
That's just simple, because you don't want somebody doing that to your clients. Probably have our brokers in. So, but right, and that's by the way, thank you for letting me put me on this one. So again, I'm a broker.
It says they can't, the buyer can't cancel it at any time, but then there's a 30-day.
Exclusive or non-exclusive. In your head, just keep 30 days.
Even though they sign a cancellation form, there's still another 30 days.
we can agree to cancel it at any time, it's effective immediately, because we're not working well.
And-
That's what
and-
it is, right?
Yes, thank you. It's with any, it's always been that way, by the way. And it's not any different, although what I would do moving forward, I will always be asking to see that cancellation and the original contract they signed.
Yes.
Just to make sure I don't get blindsided and that other, and I would tell them, I want to make sure you're protected because I need to see this and go through it. Because they didn't slip that. I'm not saying they did. I just want you, they didn't slip anything in there that binds them to you in cancellation to where they see you in the store in this new community because I sold your house and now they come after you to their commission because they buried something in their houses.
Yep, yeah, yeah. Always look at the
Where's the-
agreement.
I passed it along. Oh, and one second.
I think we're just- you know, just-
Now, playing, I don't know how this Sunday, and the last couple that walked in, told me that they didn't have an agent, so when I told them, that's wonderful, can you just give me your name and number? So I can send you the video of this property that I took, that you came in to see, so you can share it with your agent, if you decide to write it off. So that's how I did that with them.
But- Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would-
so ask for their agent, their
I
agent.
didn't, I'm sorry, I didn't ask, they didn't provide me that, so I just give them.
So by you sending them a video, you're reaching agents. No, she won't.
They have an agent.
And they told you.
You are not allowed to enter into dialogue concerning properties or second-owned properties. That is.
They can send it to their agent. Right. Not, but they didn't.
But let's finish this up. This is important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you have to be, you cannot engage in with anybody who's in a contract with another agent. Period. If they ask you questions, you can answer questions, but you can't engage, they can engage you, you cannot engage them. And if they ask you to send them stuff, you say, I'm sorry, that would be a breach of contract. So until you cancel your agency with your agent, you can't do any of that.
They're not willing to provide you the agent.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
They said that they're represented. Period.
Open house, which I mean, they can put their information in and disclosure right themselves. Is that not allowed?
That's a good question. Wow, that's a slippery, that's a gray area. I would have, okay, here again, are you do you have a buyer broker agreement with an agent? No, okay, great, here, just like this. If you do, what's your agent's name? I'll shoot this to them. And they can send it to you. Cover your ass.
Because the buyers, when you send through home life. When I go into home life and I want disclosures, and then it says, do you want to send it to anybody else? And I put my client's email in there. The listing agent is like, get that information. They're getting mine, but not my client. So if you.
How I always looked at it is, I'm there, they're easy to be and show up and sit on the house, they want their information, so I'm like.
Okay, but let me say this.
I wasn't trying to.
The buyers will walk into open houses, it's not that their agent isn't doing their job. Sometimes they're just out. And they walk into, so we never want to assume something about their.
This is all changing as of the 17th. Actually, look at it as changing right now. So if you got to do an open house this weekend, have them get started building those practices. So you'll know. And if they're not, you can have those conversations. If they are not, again, who's your agent? Oh, I don't have an agent. Oh, so you're not under a buyer broker. Nope. Okay. Game on.
Yeah.
Oh, you have your agent's Steve Durant. Conversation. Okay, she's a great agent. You know what? She's a fantastic agent, and you're working with somebody really good. And let me know if there's any questions you have about that.
That would be the same for Zillow. That would be the same for Zillow callers, because then they're calling and saying, "Are you the listing agent?" But I do have any. I get that.
Okay, so for starters, Your whole point on a Zillow call, when they call, is to get the appointments, not vet them. Not ask them if they're pre-qualified, not ask them if they have an agent, is to get to the appointment. Then once you meet them and you're walking through the house, that's when you can ask those questions.
What if that's my
That conversation happened before we even looked at the house, because he said, are you the listing agent? And I said, no. Why do you need to call a listing agent? And said, no, because I have an agent.
You and I are gonna role play, because
I have an agent.
Thursday, you and I are gonna role play a little bit, because there's a way to, there's scripts and dialogues to overcome that. And just completely skirt that and get the appointment anyway. Because you put doubt in their minds, why would you be wanting to call this agent? You call Zillow. Zillow connects you with a local. How is that? I know they know, but it's the way.
Are we waiting till Thursday to go over the?
We can run this as long as we need to. This is.
It's kind of rolling in.
If you have a phone in front of you, stay if you can, because. Yes.
Okay, well, so my initial question before was on cancellation. That if you're exclusive, it says you have to give them a 30-day notice. So they send you an email, so nobody else can work with them for an additional 30 days?
Well,
That's the question.
no.
Okay.
If someone wants to cancel with you, you're gonna cancel with them. You're gonna provide them with a list of homes that you showed them, still gonna get paid on.
Okay.
That's the, I can't remember the acronym, I haven't raised them all yet, but it's one of the forms in there.
So we move it. Sorry, is this on that? Yes. I will see. I apologize, Mr. Durant, so then what if you show them the few homes? They want to cancel because their cousin or aunt's a realtor and they want to write the offer with them, but you show them the home. previously.
So that's one of the forms in our packet that you list the properties.
And then-
And that's a.
Yeah, there's-
And then-
That's really simple. We put it in the homes. You need to let these people know that. Like, when they show you the home, you need to understand that I intend to, if you're interested, I show you, I will be the one writing the offer. So I'll do a commission.
And that's why we have the buyer broker here. That's part of the conversation.
That paperwork is now. Well, wait a minute, because now they've gone to their cousin and wrote the offer. I don't know who her cousin is and be able to. Oh,
Yeah, it still happens that way. It's still you have to decide how diligent you want to be the paperwork, and how much of a fight. You just want to know that, by the way, it's an opportunity.
I did it this way. Meanwhile, they broke an offer with Joe Blow. On that.
That's no different than how it's been, this buyer broker agreement's existed for 20 years. It's no different. So I've had to, many times I've had to call another agent and fight for my agent because we had a buyer.
I'll tell you what, we're just talking about is what you know.
Right.
Here's the good news. With this change, it's going to happen. It will, because there'll be a lot more dialogue. It'll chase out all the shitty ass agents.
So the buyers need to understand that they are in a binding contract. And if they go to Cousin Michael to write this offer, and show them. they're gonna owe you a-
And so here you go. Do this now, because if you don't, first time you get burnt, you'll do this. By the way, Jeff, and we're signing this, just so we're very clear. We're signing this with these are agents. I'm going to be showing hopes. I'm going to be expecting to write offers and negotiate on your behalf. Pay through that. So I just want to make sure that you have any, your friends or relatives that you may end up fighting with.
And this is where the buyer consultation is so important.
It's a fair consultation. You know, it's not an easy conversation, but it'll get easier and it'll protect you. And by the way, we're out there running around a lot. This is going to curb some of that. Because people, this is allowed. This is forcing our dialogues. We shouldn't have gone along.
I think you can do it, like we said, with the confidence, this is how this shit works. This is what it's every day. They're gonna go, this shit, when they're. Roll with it. This is that. This is-
So, and you know. So I'm, so I'm showing a Zillow lead. I took a phone call yesterday for a $2.8 million Zillow lead. I'm seeing that I'm showing it on Sunday. So I've never had to do this because of the Zillow. I'm just more comfortable if I knew the people or whatever. So here we go. I'm gonna go meet up with this $2.8 million buyer with my book, of course. But how do you walk up and I'm gonna say, okay, we have some forms before we go in, and there's an open house there, by the way, so I'm trying to control the situation. So do I just come in with my little package?
First off, if it's Zillow, there's this form.
Right.
Zillow.
Okay,
It's a non-binding, non-exclusive, non-nothing way to skirt the system that Zillow gets because they're Zillow.
okay, so
That we have to use. It's
Okay.
only good for 7 days. You know, it's nothing. It means they're just acknowledging that you're showing them homes and you're not doing anything. They could have another reason. It doesn't matter. This doesn't bind or lock anything in. What the nice thing about this house, it's only for 7 days. They should be signing it. They don't have to buy it. Hey, it's optional. On Zillow. It's optional. But it does. Correct. So I would, you can bring this or you can bring that. I bring this because the whole point is you're supposed to get the appointment and get them in. You know what? But what this does is this segues into a nice dialogue about that.
right.
Because
This
this is when you say, by the way, and it's no different because what are you, what am I? Don't pay attention to me. Okay, what I know. This is gonna come down right now. What are the 3 questions I ask and tell you all to ask when you take a Zillow buyer into a house? First off, are they gonna buy that house? How much time? What's that?
What's your time frame? How long have you been looking to get in house? How long have you been?
What is this?
Are you looking for a lender? Do you have any talk to a lender?
Yeah. How long have you been, first question I ask, how long have you been in the market looking for a house? What does that tell me?
They have an agent.
Yeah. Well, so nothing has to change. It's still- Those conversations and questions are gonna be more fucking important now than ever. Okay, and I'm gonna go attack them if they say, oh, I've been looking for 6 months. Oh, great. What's your time frame for moving? See, I just, when I told you, I just raised the motor. That's the reason. You want to be confrontational. You want to crack my mission. You want to understand the whole way of the land. Oh, we need to be moved in 3 months. Oh, we're not exactly. You just corporate or you want to letter? No. Okay. So then I start looping back around. Now I'm building rapport. Find out a little bit about, by the way, so what was it that you didn't like about your last agent? Oh. So I thought they told me to call Zillow. Oh. That's really interesting. See, agent is really interested in showing you houses and understanding what you like. That's okay, because I really don't want to step on anybody's toes. But I can tell you this, I wouldn't let you go see a house without. It's my job. So here's my card. Decide you want presentation. I want to really buy a house. Feel free to call. But now I'd be like, then I'd ask, oh, are you going to buy a broker? So it's just it's dialogue. It's asking questions. Nothing changes except you got to have this filled out. And it segues into getting the next one filled out, the buyer broker. So you're going to waste a whole. So now, guess what? If you dialogue people, scripts and dialogues, we're going to work the heck out of those. I'm telling you right now, this is going to make Zillow so much easier. I'm not going to get the calls from all y'all. Hey, they ghosted me. They're not calling me back. No shit. Have that conversation in that first house about that buyer broker agreement and what it means.
Well, maybe if word spreads that you need to find something to see houses, less people will call them just want to see houses for fun.
First of all, I don't think this is going to hold up very long. Again, like Lisa said, these are the NAR is going to be like, oh yeah, no, this means nothing, and this is not what we're doing. So this will evolve. That's my whole point. You know, but you and the
So once you have that first conversation, what if they wanted to see 3 houses? And they put them all through Zillow or whatever, so then would you not show them the next? Even if you have them.
No, I mean, here's what you have, here, Greg. You have to listen to your gut. Here's me. Oh, heck no. I'm gonna send you in the heck. I'm gonna show you houses. I'm gonna keep dialoguing you, and I'm gonna show you that I am more valuable than anybody you're working. Here's one thing I can tell you. I am by no means ever the smartest person in the room. I have almost zero talent when it comes to music or art or sports. But I get it, sports. But here's what I do know. I can outwork every one of you in this room, and I can outwork anybody out there. And that's how I win. I'll outwork you.
But if they are a broker at that
I'm going to show them houses, and I'm going to be saying, and by the way, it's interesting you have a buyer broker and you're understanding property with me. It makes me kind of wonder, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be I'm not going to throw it in the bus. I'm going to plant lots of seeds of doubt. Yeah, where's your agent now? Like, does that concern you? Don't you want, you're going to, by the way, you're going to be paying your agent. Why would you not want them working and earning their money?
That's great.
I'll give you lines all day long. And by the way, that just came off the spot because I'm better under pressure. Throw something at me and I'm like, bang. Not always, but
I had that happen, what Sue was saying, so I met a Zillow lead, and they had, their agent was out of town, and they had 5 houses they wanted me to show. And I straight up told them, okay, now you told me you have an agent, but I said, if I show you any of these 5 houses, since I'm showing them to you, you have to write up with me on any of these lines. Yeah.
have the paper,
Right, for these.
have the paperwork with you, have the buyer broker with you, and then you can run. I'm more than happy to show those next 4 houses, and then you can run back to agent. But if I'm going to show those next 4 houses, I'm going to ask you to sign this buyer broker for those 4 houses that says if you like any of them and you want to write an offer on any of them, I will be your agent. Just on those 4 houses, you're showing them. That's the buyer broker for those 4.
Buyer broker.
That doesn't matter. They came to you, asked you to show them these houses. You're signing it to show them these houses. Specific. You can't sign a buyer broker.
That's the county on it. Like, what if the other says like?
Doesn't matter. No. Well, it's one of those great. Here's the thing. Look at it this way.
It's problem.
Lisa's over here, and she's black. I'm over here, and I'm white. Both of us love this gray area, and we will give you a lot of flexibility to use your own discretion.
Specifically.
Buyer broker.
We're talking. Zillow came to you, right? You have 2 contracts. They're great. You have to have them cancel the other one.
So the one form,
Again, it's a gray area. We'll call legal on this. Hang on one second. Lori.
So you have the one form to show them the first property. So at what point do you switch over to the buyer broker agreement?
As soon as you can, I would.
Like if they want to see like more than 3 houses or
You better have one with you. And
more than 1 house, you used to have them sign the 1-pager. So at what point during the tour do you say, okay, now sign this?
you're gonna have to use your own discretion on that and really feel that out. And it's, again, gray area. We're all learning. Nobody has every answer. You, Eddie, then you. That's
This is only for the first 7 days, so if you show them within that 7 days. Before showing them again, they'll say they need to sign.
so. Let me tell you something. This is good for 7 days, but it means nothing. So it's really not any good anyway. This literally says non-exclusive. They owe you nothing. You will show them houses for free, and you are owed nothing. That's what this says. This is the biggest fucking joke I've ever seen, and I've told Zillow this.
Yeah.
It means nothing. It's their way around.
It's
Yeah, right? So I apologize for all my F-bombs. I get really passionate. I just want to drive points home because I'm very passionate about it.
Good question.
We're not scared.
After the first showing, I get that. Nothing, I agree. And then they want to go see houses, a week later, 5 days later. At that point, you need to plan this, I'm not showing you.
Huh? Absolutely. You could, literally, how to find another one of these, but why would you? This is the segue into that. Right. And this is the beautiful thing, hang on, I still gotta go to it. This is the beautiful thing about this buyer broker and this. And Zillow, because now it provides you that platform, you have to have that conversation. And they're gonna get that with anybody unless somebody's just, that it. And
Can we skip that and just sure. Buyer broker agreement?
here's the thing. Then how are you building rapport and winning the people? There's a piece of it. You're meeting somebody that you've never seen before, and you're gonna show up and go, you need to sign this.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This is, you could, but then if you're. Yeah, we'll keep answering more. Hey. Okay, great. Jim.
I've heard it said before that after you get a Zillow lead, okay, I'm going to be sending you my digital business card. Send a digital business card, and then I've heard it said, in order for me to represent you, I'm going to send you a link that says that I'm going to be your agent, so you don't get any agents bombarding you with phone calls. In addition to that, I have a form. This just says that, I'll represent you for 7 days. I let them know ahead of time.
It doesn't say I'll represent you. It says that this just. And how is that I.
So would you recommend, like, with that digital business card and accepting me as a Zillow agent, I'm gonna be sending?
They automatically get it.
Well, no, they do not automatically get it. Oh, okay. See, we're all learning, so thank you.
What you do, there's a. Sign up for this, that it can be sent to them automatically. Yeah. There was one, I haven't done it yet.
I think when it comes to Zillow, this change couldn't be a better thing.
By the way, and they were just busy today, so I called for that.
Here's the thing, with Zillow, it's performance based, it's averages, right? So if this shifts anything, they should see it all across the board. If you have weak teams that just are afraid and don't do it right, they'll fall below that average and it'll be very apparent. Whole average drops, then you know that they'll make adjustments. Like,
I think this is gonna, when a buyer signs this, it's gonna show that they're not loyal to whoever is their agent, if there is one. So it's giving us the opportunity to at least get to them rather than trying to.
it doesn't change anything if you're a Zillow agent. It enhances and helps you. It gives you the gateway. It shows you their loyalty because they should be, in theory, if they have an agent, they should be in a buyer broker agreement. In theory, they better be. But of course, we know that not everybody's going to enforce this. There'll still be the rogue agents out there showing because they weren't trained right. Because they didn't have
Show that
the
who's serious,
And-
because if they don't sign this, they're not going to be a serious buyer, so.
You think we'll get a lot of cancellations just because of that? Unless they see the form.
I think- my feel is, and my fear is there's going to be this transition phase for at least probably 3 months to 6 months where it'll be like, I didn't go, this and that. I called, I shouldn't have called, I canceled. My agent told me I'm gonna buy a broker. They didn't explain it right. Here's the best way to look at it. It's going to be very muddy, murky waters for a while. It really is. And we'll have a lot more of these because there'll be a lot more to talk about once we all start getting into it a little. Great.
What I plan to do is, if I'm doing Zillow or if I just need a new buyer for the first time, I plan on just saying, hey, get it, you don't know me that well yet, why don't you sign up by a broker for like a couple weeks, and then if you know, we enjoy working together, then we'll extend it. Check it out, the people, you don't bring people out, and they're like, oh god, like, I don't know where that well, do I really wanna be well?
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the same thing I've been doing for a very long time, the same thing I do with residential listing agreements. I'm just gonna sign this for a very short residential listing agreement. I signed for 3 months typically. Why? Because I might want it now. Let's work together. Let me show you. I know damn well, if you sign a contract with me, just told you, I can outwork anybody. I can prove my worth in what I do and how I communicate. They'll gladly sign another extension. Gladly. And if they don't, then I don't deserve to have one.
If they have a buyer broker agreement with another agent and they tell you after you take them out, then you're not allowed to.
If they sign this, again, this is great.
No, I
Super,
mean, like,
super great.
later if you find out, because you were saying, oh, write them a buyer broker for these couple properties, but if they already have a buyer broker with somebody else, then you writing it up for those couple properties, they would owe 2 commissions, right?
Great, that's
So
their
there's
problem.
really, like, you would have to say, sign a buyer broker on these properties, but you need to cancel.
This is gonna be some of the murkiest. This is gonna be some of the murkiest waters that nobody wants to answer these questions yet.
But you might wanna tell them. If you're able to.
Yes.
Oh, 2 commissions if you don't get a cancellation. I know it's not our problem, but I mean, I would tell them, like, but if you get in contact with me on this and you haven't canceled that, you might owe for both.
This is where you're gonna have to use your gut and your best judgment. Many times. Simple as. No, the buyer, no, the buyer. That they get.
But the seller can pay your commission if you click the SPVD. So if you're negotiating, like I said, on the counter, you can technically say a buyer's compensation. You have to say buyer's concession. And everybody's got to say commission, just consider, but you will. Everybody will. Okay.
And these, by the way, and just like you said, that's the beautiful thing about these forums. They spawn more dialogue, better dialogue. Not take our tails near as much. Not get ghosted near as much. They're going to me. Here's what I'll tell you. I got no problem with my property. Time, if you really believe I'm going to have a buyer broker in place before you take them out a second time. Guaranteed. I don't even care if it's in the set for 7 days. I don't. This gets you one show. Right. No, this gets you one thing with me. This gets you one interaction with me. That's all it takes. Here it is. That's where I hope and that's kind of the nice thing. Now there's no more chasing your tail. And in that first thing, hopefully the sign and say, by the way, this is good for 7 days, however, it really doesn't mean anything. If we're going to move forward in institutional housing again, we need to have a buyer consultation so I can explain to you how the process works, what you can expect from me. Oh, well, I'm going to go back to my arrangement. Okay. I know I'm done. Thank you very much. Don't have to put any more effort or time. I can see rejections going way up, or I can still stick them in literature and let it drip on them for when that person fails. You can do anything you want. That's a great thing. Everything's negotiable. I'm telling you right now, and do this all day long, every day, because I know it's going to make all of you the best agents out there. And you're only going to win. You're going to be huge. Huge. That's all about. This is same stage now. Any other questions in regards to like, is anybody afraid of talking to sellers and telling them they need to offer a concession to the buyer? Say, look, this is easier. It is for me, but it's, here's the thing. By the way, Mr. Joy, that's always been negotiable. As long as we've been doing real estate, and it's still negotiable. But you want to sell your house? I'd be offering a 3.5% commission or concession. Why not? Yeah, it's gonna take a while, retraining, but by the way, now you're going to stand out, even though that won't be, and then by the way, who here thinks it's gonna be more valuable to start going to tours? You also raise your freaking hands, because you know what, you can stand up there, if I'm a listing agent, you bet I'm going there, and I'm gonna be standing up there saying, by the way, I've got this amazing listing, and you know what the great part about it is? They're offering a 3.5% buyer concession. Whoa. Yeah. Now I don't gotta go make a phone call to the agent. Shit. Well, Rolodex, who do I got to buy this out? Now, okay, I gotta buy a broker 2.5%. Guess what? This is buyer. I got some great news. There's this amazing house. They're willing to pay me my commission and pay you a percent towards your closing costs. Or for whatever you want. Winning just made my job easier to sell you. You guys, I mean, God, goosebumps. This is, I couldn't be more, in case you can't tell, this is like freaking exciting. There's so many you can do with this. You guys can win so big. What's that? I am a very quiet, introverted person. And don't say much and don't get too excited. But I don't get excited very much at all. Yeah. Very good for that. When it comes to real estate and shifting gears in real estate, oh man, nothing fires me up more. Because this is when you can win. Huge. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I asked you about changes. I said it's just an invitation. It's not, it's call your buyers down. It's just a negotiation. And if it's a hot house, it may, be a different situation. You're calling us down.
What are you gonna do? Going back to what Kevin was saying, it's like, okay, you got a buyer, you're trying to buy a broker, and they say, well, I really can't afford it. You're gonna walk away from that person? Yes, yes, oh my gosh. Well, okay, are you willing to look at houses that are willing to pay the concession to you that can pay me? Well, of course. Okay, you realize if we find one, and by the way, okay, CCAR, they're only offering 2% concession to the buyer. And you know you guys, that's the perfect house. What are you gonna do? Not sell my house?
No, I would do it 100%.
Exactly. Exactly. It's better than zero.
Just because it's Sunday, it doesn't mean it counts.
You can ask, by the way, Don, guys, you guys hear this? This is why we keep going. Just because they say they're offering a 2% concession doesn't mean you can't write an offer with a bigger 2.5 or 3% concession. All they can do is say no.
I did that, they said no, but
It was 2%, and I asked for my 2.5, and I submitted the first buyer broker I ever had to sign. But that's the one where my client said, well, I'll pay you half of the difference, so he's giving me an extra quarter.
Wow.
Then pay for them, because
By the
they
way,
want to sell the house.
here's the thing. You gotta posture a little bit, and you gotta play the game, and you gotta be good at sales. Well, there's several houses, this is just the first one we're interested. And if it's been on the market a while. Yeah. They may not want to take the chance that you're gonna go walking away. You just don't know. The answer is yes, 100%. And inventory going up. Inventory down. People have to inventory and they figure out it. And I really think that I have no prediction on what's going to happen in a couple weeks when this all shifts. It's going to be fun to just watch it, then go scavenger hunting, and picking up the pieces and going, woohoo! It's going to, I think it's going to be an absolute, it's going to be interesting to know what they're doing. Sellers and buyers are frustrated as.
really gonna stop the mentality of the 2.5%. We really need to focus on our sellers.
What did you say was gonna be the standard for your sellers?
I don't want to change. By the way, everybody knows that our company policy is you do not ever offer until the 17th, which is not going to change. It'll just be a concession, less than 2.5% to the other side. We're not a discount brokerage. We believe that we're worth it. Well, you better show everybody else that they're worth it. You need to fudge a little bit on the selling side. I don't think you should, but if you have to, that's where you have it. And use us as the bad guy or check with us first. I'm not going to stop you from doing business on your side, but I am going to stop you from damaging your reputation, our reputation as a discount brokerage. Like, I'll go show a house that's only 2% if it makes sense for my client. But believe me, I know the agents out there that do that and I have zero fucking respect for them. Zero. If they ever came here, nope, we're not interested. You're a weak ass agent. You can't even stand up for your own value. Or worse yet, for my value, your value, your value, your value. That's bullshit. If this is the norm and the average and the industry standard, who are you to say I should go for less than that? Nope, not happening, you guys. So I don't want to see that. It should be 2.5%. By the way, why would you want to hurt people? Taking a listing is not having business. Taking a saleable listing that's offering fair compensation that will sell, that's business. And a listing that is overpriced and not paying a fair commission, that's a liability. That's a headache. That's going to get you a lot of calls and a lot of shitty conversations. Stand up for what you know is right. Don't take a listing because it makes you feel good. Oh, it makes you feel like you have business. You don't. If it can't sell, believe me, I've done it just as like, oh, I feel bad. You know what? I want to do the right thing. I want to help them out. It's not helping them out. It's not helping you out. It's not helping anybody out, by the way. It's just going to be tough conversations. Be afraid to walk away. Never be afraid to walk away from a deal because it doesn't make sense. Just don't. It's powerful. It doesn't make sense. Don't. Right, Jeff? Jeff, have you walked away from sellers?
Yeah,
And buyers?
but it took a long time to do it. Once I did it once, wow. This is surprising. Yeah, it feels good. Like that's like you said, it's a headache. I was getting those phone calls. Hey, your shit's still ain't sold. Hey, your shit's still. I mean, and they're gonna blame you.
I was in 2.5 years, which was still a long time. And I had a seller that was literally, they decided to set the price, which I knew was too high. And they would continue to call me every other day. Why don't I have choice? What more are you doing? And beating the crap out of me. And I agreed to do it for like less than.
I've never.
And then I fired them. And by the way, while I'm dealing with that stressed out, how much good business did I miss? Because all this energy that I've stuck myself into. I fired them. Oh my gosh. Business. And it was a big relief. That was my aha moment. If it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't work for me, look, I'm not looking for these bucks. I'm looking for the fair dollar, the good client, somebody who knows that I'm the expert. You hired me, you called me over here because I'm the expert, right? But every seller wants to be an armchair realtor and tell you how to do your job. Well, then why am I here? So for sale by. Let me know how it works out.
I agree. It's stuff. You change that mindset of doing what's right. Client. Money. Saving yourself this headache. So signing any list just to get listings.
Yes.
Like I said, I've done it.
And by the way, whoever does that. Really for instance, and then, you know what? I'll tell it to them. They're friends. I mean, I do deal with them. They know it. I told them. This is ugly. No, it's not. That's what they do. It's a certain business model that they use. That's all. It's not one I agree with. It's not one that works for me. It's not one that I think should work for anybody.
Jeff has a best friend who's in that. Very careful.
Just call it what it is. I mean, that's it. Yeah. So, any other questions, you guys?
Question about a form, I do. The biomaterial issues for specific topic.
By the way, thank you, everybody. I hope you got the value out of this.
He has a question. He has a question. Hold on.
Got it out of here.